Hello, everyone, and welcome to our to the East Texas Lighthouse topic of the month. Today's topic is preparing for college. My name is Cesar Lopez, and co-hosting this with me is Ali Parrish.
Hello, I'm Allie Parrish, and I'm the Education Services Administrator at the East Texas Lighthouse for the Blind Client Services.
And I am the IT the IT support technician of Tier 2 at East Texas Lighthouse for the Blind and Horizon Industries.
And we are both co-hosting this. We are both in our careers at the Lighthouse. However, we are co-hosting this as college graduates. Like I said, I'm the Education Services admin. However, my background is in psychology. I went to the University of St. Thomas in Houston, Texas, and got my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology with a minor in Theology. And I was the president of PsyChi, which is the International Psychology Honor Society. I also did a study abroad trip, taking my summer classes in Rome, Italy. And then, I did 2 capstone thesis projects for my graduation. I have started my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. That is in progress, I will be honest. But I just wanted to give you guys a background because Cesar and I, of course, have our jobs, but most of all, for this particular talk, we're talking to you as college graduates. So Cesar, can you talk about your major and what you studied?
Of course. So I went to the University of Texas at Tyler, where I graduated in 2016 with a major in computer information systems and a minor in business administration. I have been with the Lighthouse for, I'm coming up on 9 years, I believe. No, this is 8 years. Come the end of May, it's 8 years. For the first few years, I worked in the store because at the time I wanted to get job experience. And then about a year or so into it, I was offered an internship with the IT department, where I have been nurturing my skills. And believe it or not, a lot of the skills that I picked up working with the Lighthouse have helped me tremendously in school, and vice versa as well. And I came on full time on 2016, and I've been working there ever since.
And one of the things that we wanted to kind of do is, if you've been keeping up with this YouTube series that Anne has been orchestrating, we're kind of trying to do like some scaffolding and like really building on the things, the prior topics that we've covered. And so for those of you who are in junior high and high school, you're probably thinking like, what can I do to prepare for college right now?
I don't know.
If you could please, by the way, mute your microphones until our Q&A session.
All right. Someone came in just a moment ago. There we go.
Okay. Awesome. Anyways, and so we are kind of wanting to layer upon 4 more topics. And one of the things that I wanted to really hone in on for those of you who are in junior high or high school who are at home right now, unfortunately, due to the coronavirus quarantine, is working on your independent living skills. Because when you get to college, you want to worry about college, right? You don't want to worry about, I don't know how to do my laundry. I don't know how to get around. And so you guys in my last session on dressing on trend and doing hair and makeup met my mom, and she definitely had me start, whether I wanted to or not, start doing my laundry when I was 13 years old, because she had told me that exact thing. She had said, when you get to college, I want you to worry about college. And at 13 years old, I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, really? But now I'm incredibly grateful for it. And I was in college as well. And so if your parent, guardian, anybody like that has not started on working on laundry with you, or preparing food, things like that, go ahead and ask. Say, hey, could you teach me about having to do laundry? And if you do not have accessible bump dots for your washer, dryer, microwave, dishwasher, stove, things like that, that's definitely something, if you are in the East Texas area, that you can come to us at the Lighthouse for, and we have all kinds of accessibility equipment that can help you with your independent living. But that is honestly one of the greatest things you can do, because you don't want to get to college and be intimidated by the fact that, oh my gosh, I don't know, if you live in your own apartment, I don't know how to fix my meal. Or if you're living on campus and your main independent living thing is laundry, like, you don't want to have to worry about that. And so go ahead and take responsibility if no one is already kind of pushing you in that direction, and work on your independent living skills. Another thing that I would really encourage you guys to work on right now, and if anybody has ever met with me before, you're about to hear something that I've talked about so much, which is taking responsibility for your education. And what I mean by
Ellie,
that is, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Cesar, could you take the stop sharing screen so we can see your full faces now? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, anyways, so I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about taking responsibility for your education, in the sense of, yes, it is your teachers of the visually impaired, or VI teachers, responsibility to, help educate your regular ed teachers about your disability, about your accommodations. However, on the kind of ECC side of it, it's more so, in my opinion, your job to make them comfortable with your disability. So even meeting with your teachers after class and saying, hey, this is the assistive technology I use. I know it might be intimidating to hear about all my accommodations, but this is basically what I do. That will prepare you for college, because when you get to college and you make an appointment with your disability counselor, as those of you know who went to the UT Tyler in East Texas, went to the UT Tyler trip to the disability office, it is your responsibility to make appointments with them and give your accommodations to your teachers and to the testing center. But of course, the ADA protects you in those ways if you have accommodations. But honestly, it really is your responsibility to make all of your teachers now and all of your professors in college comfortable with your disability by meeting with them in either their office hours, which will be on their syllabus from day one, or just like asking to talk to them after class. And I can tell you from personal experience, that really makes the hugest difference. Cesar, do you have anything to kind of add to that?
Yes, to piggyback off of that, on top of being proactive and approaching your professors with accommodations, it is also invaluable to preemptively know where all your resources are. If you have any particular technology needs, to go to the accessibility services departments and ask them, this is the technology that I need, or is it available to us as students, or are there any parallels to it? They will usually tell you that there are computer labs, or there's at least one computer in their testing centers that have what you need. And most computer labs as well will have at least one computer with accessibility software in them. Most buildings will have some sort of facility. Say there's a writing center in UT Tyler. There is a business lab in the business building last I checked at UT Tyler. So it is also important to, like I said, preemptively know what resources you have available to you. And if you know that they do not have it, ask them to acquire it for you, or at the very least make it reasonably accessible to you.
Mm-hmm. And on resources, really, you guys, whatever college you know that you're going to go to, look up in that area TWC, because you're going to need to have your TWC counselor that you're responsible for making your appointments with. Know, like Cesar said, where the disability office is, know where the testing center is, know where the labs are on campus. Know where your local lighthouse is, because we have an O&M instructor who, for my students, has walked their schedules with them. And if that's not for some reason available, or there's not a local lighthouse where you go to college, there are people in the disability office who are happy. When I went to school, I never had anyone say no to me when I was like, hey, can you guys walk my schedule with me? And that included finding the nearest restroom to my classrooms. That included the coffee shop, that included the subway, the gym, things like that. And so knowing where your resources are, like I said, TWC, the Lighthouse, the business office, knowing all of your resources is definitely something that you really need to do, for sure. Cesar, can you, I know, I don't know what high school curriculum looks like anymore. Cesar and I graduated in 2010, so we're going to age ourselves for a second. And so I'm not sure what the curriculum is anymore, but when we were in school, they taught a class called BCIS, which taught Microsoft Word, Excel, all of that good stuff. I will say Microsoft Word was helpful for, of course, formatting and writing papers, because when you get to college, formatting matters. For example, as a psychology major, and then I believe in Cesar's major as well, we were APA. Well, we grew up on MLA, so we really had to hone in on our word skills. And then career-wise is when, for me personally, when Excel really came into play. So Cesar, just being that technology is your specialty, can you talk about the importance of knowing your technology once you get to college and really working on that in middle school and high school as much as you can?
Indeed. Especially nowadays, much more than 10 years ago when we went to school or when we started university, just about everything is accessible via computers. So it is absolutely essential that you have basic computer skills, apart from just, knowing how to navigate a computer. You also need to, like Ali said, the Microsoft Office suite is one of the most used software suites across the world, simply for formatting or creating documents and formatting them in a presentable manner, like a MLA or APA. PowerPoint presentations, that one is especially tricky because there are some fundamental rules of presentations that you have to know in advance, apart from just creating a PowerPoint. What general guidelines should you follow, such as only having somewhere between 3 and 5 points per slide and not having a ton of clutter, or not having contrasting colors that would just result in a jarring image. Mm-hmm. Excel, where it is putting it very, very mildly, is a very elaborate calculator that can be used to do so many more robust tasks if you are educated more so trained. If you know how to use it, you can use it to great effect. Mm-hmm. So like Ali said, it's absolutely important to have at the very least those fundamental skills. Of course, typing. I see more people struggling with typing than I really care for, but knowing important keyboard shortcuts as well will save you a lot, such as just Windows navigation. Let me see, what else should we? Of course, knowing your accessibility software, Zoom Text or JAWS, knowing how to use that to great effect will help you keep up with your courses. You don't want to be dealing with trying to navigate around Zoom Text or JAWS while you're trying to take notes.
Yes, and guys, I always tell my students, because I, as an education services admin who is almost completely blind, and I don't know if we mentioned this already, but Cesar is low vision and I am almost totally blind. So we have a very high level of empathy for everything that you're going through, everything that you will go through, but we also have a very high level of accountability. And the things that Cesar is talking about, like knowing how to use PowerPoint, guys, you don't want to be socially, you don't want to be the student in a group project who everyone's like, oh no, I'm with the blind kid who doesn't know how to use PowerPoint, so I'm gonna have to enter their stuff into PowerPoint for them. And let me tell you, every professor requires PowerPoint for a presentation now. You don't want to have to be that person. So knowing little things and being able to email your slides to your student colleagues and be like, hey guys, here's my slides. And like Cesar said, knowing even the basics, because let me tell you, I had to be told what he was talking about no more than 3 to 5 at most bullets per slide. I was like, I'm gonna put 10 bullets in this slide because it's topical. I had to be told that. So you really, you want to be as independent as possible. And knowing your technology really matters. However, there's also nothing wrong with asking for help when necessary. So I used to put either a paper or a PowerPoint presentation on a flash drive when I was in college, and I would go to tutorial services and be like, hey, I'm a psychology major, so they'd give me the psych tutor who knows APA, and I would say, can you look over this, like, or my data tables, like, hey, can you look over this real quick? Does this look good? You know, what can I do to improve it? Just before I turned it in, so that if I wrote, say, an A paper, it wouldn't be a B because of some silly formatting issue that I messed up on, because everyone makes mistakes, even if you do know your JAWS and your MOS, like everyone makes mistakes. And so being able to really be independent in your studies is something that is of the utmost importance. But that being said, you can't do that without utilizing your resources. For example, you can't get to and from places without utilizing paratransit, Uber, or Lyft. You know, you can't write your papers and format them if you don't know your Microsoft Office Word. So it's okay to ask for help along the way to get to your independence. And one of the biggest parts of being independent is to know when to ask for help, right?
Using your resources is not mutually exclusive with being independent. In fact, using the resources available to you is the epitome of empowerment and independence.
Exactly. And that is, and that's Lighthouse talk, right? Because we're all about empowering blind and visually impaired individuals. And so honestly, I mean, that is really the biggest thing that I want you guys to have a takeaway is, when I get to college, how can I be independent but not be overwhelmed? And what can I be working on right now? There's so many things, especially like I said, you guys are, and I'm really sorry for this, especially for the student who called in who's a senior. I'm really sorry that you're having to spend the last months of your senior year in quarantine. That's very unfortunate, but you know, with homeschool, your schedule's a little more flexible, so you can work on expanded core curriculum things like learning to do your laundry, or maybe if you have a parent or guardian home that can help you learn to cook, things like that. You know, playing around in Microsoft Office Word, asking your TVI what resources there are for training. If you're in the East Texas area, the Lighthouse is currently, client services is not seeing in-person clients at present. However, you know, we do offer trainings and things like that. So whatever you can be doing, working on right now, that can get you ready. So like I said earlier, that when you get to college is what you're worried about. You're not worried about all these other little things that can cause you anxiety and overwhelm you and essentially affect your grades when they didn't need to be affected by those little things, right?
Mm-hmm. On top of that as well, I would, sorry, I kind of lost the point I was going to make.
I actually had a question for you, Cesar, if you could talk to them about this. I personally, my mom works in academia, and so I kind of had somebody who's been to college and kind of knows the system. Cesar, if you don't mind me sharing, is a first-gen college student, and he's the first college graduate in his family. So can you talk about like what it was like navigating things like, you know, financial aid and FAFSA, and just like kind of learning the college lifestyle as a first-gen graduate, college student, you know, things like that. Can you talk about that?
Yes. And like Ali said, I am a first-gen graduate. A lot of the things that comes with the finer details that come with applying for college, I had to find out firsthand. My parents were there with me, of course, but a lot of it I had to be the one to go and do it, because it's not them going to college, it's me going to college. So things like signing up for FAFSA, we didn't really know where that had taken place, but fortunately we were told that there was a FAFSA workshop going on at TJC, I think in February of 2010. And so my mother and I went, and they told us the workshop document said what tax documents we need to bring, et cetera, et cetera. And so for the most part, they walked us through the beginning of it, and we were able to then fill out the rest. Anytime we had questions, they assisted us. And after we had done it that one time, every subsequent time we had to sign up for FAFSA was much easier because, well, my mother and I had already done it once before. So it was much less intimidating after the very first time. Same goes for even after you apply for a university and after you've been accepted. In most portals, they will have to-do lists, other things that the university requires specifically for them so that you can finish up your application process. So being proactive on that portal, checking in on the regular and seeing, okay, is there something new? Because it's not all going to be available right away. Some things are not available until one thing is already done. So being proactive in that regard would save you a lot of trouble, especially if you go and find out, say you have something due the week of and you didn't know that it was due the week of, and everyone is all at once doing their last minute things as well. You don't want to run into that.
No. And like Cesar was saying, honestly, you guys, one of the things that I've had to explain to my students, who are brilliant, by the way, and it's nothing against anybody's intellect. It's just knowing how to navigate college. For example, right now, if you're a senior, go ahead and go to the U.S. Department of Education and fill out your 2020 to 2021 FAFSA, so that when you get accepted into college, on your financial aid to-do list is, unfortunately, it's very similar paperwork that they want you to answer on their end. But the FAFSA doesn't just mean, oh, okay, I'm automatically going to get my Pell Grant. You have to fill out your FAFSA, and your university receives your FAFSA. And then you have to, like Cesar was saying, there's like an order of operations with a to-do list. So, okay, I have to fill out this dependent form if, say, I'm 18 and my parents still claim me on their taxes. And then you might have to fill out a couple of other forms. And then they offer you grants and loans, and then you have to check that you want to accept the grants. And so, like I said, there's nothing wrong with asking. For example, I used to go to the financial aid office or call and see if I could make an appointment and say, I'm blind and I really need assistance filling out this paperwork, and having a financial aid representative explain to me what some of this stuff means, because I have no idea what does this even mean? And you don't want to have something small, like some small hiccup preventing you from getting your Pell Grant put into your account. And so just utilizing your resources and just speaking up, right? I mean, wouldn't you say that's pretty important, especially in financial aid?
And to piggyback off of that as well is be as proactive as you can. And when I say proactive, I mean get it done as soon as it's possible. You don't want to run into this stuff last minute. You want to be ahead of the game and be able to take care of things when things are not as crazy as they could be. Like I said, I went to UT Tyler, and I've seen that hallway where the financial aid and the student center is the week prior and the week of school starting, and it is packed. It is very, very packed. You don't want to be one of the poor souls in the long line, especially if you want to get things done as quickly as possible. All righty.
Yeah, and that's true about being proactive. And that's why I said, if you're at home and you have a computer and Wi-Fi and things like that, and you're a senior right now, you can go ahead and fill out your FAFSA. And if you haven't decided on a college, there's a way to just have it sent to every college you think you might go to. That's a thing. You can select all the universities you want your FAFSA information sent to, but it is already available. I have checked. Just because of my job position or job title and what I do, I've already checked in the FAFSA 20 to 2021. So that will cover fall 2020, spring 2021, and summer 2021. That is already available to fill out. So for those of you who are seniors, whether you're in the East Texas area with us or not, the FAFSA, that's FAFSA, is available to go ahead and fill out. So go ahead and be prepared with that. And I mentioned something earlier, and I'm sure, I know Brittany, who did our independent living YouTube session, she covered this already, but I wanted to go ahead and reiterate that if you are about to go to college, please get your own bank account with your own debit card, because what you can do with your financial aid is you can have it deposited into your bank account. And so you don't have to wait or go pick up a check or stand in those lines. You can have it auto deposited into your bank account. You can also have your SSI if you've already have filled that out for when you turn 18, or if you're under 18 and receive it, but when you turn 18, it's going to be switched to your personal bank account. That's something that's really important for you to have, and you can work on. I would say the summer between senior year and freshman year of college, just going ahead and getting your bank information set up. Do you agree with that, Cesar?
Yes. Take all measures that would go ahead and make things just much more convenient for you. That is fairly new. It's been around, not especially recently, but with the prevalence of computer systems in college and education, that's definitely one of the steps that would make life a lot easier, is having your own accounts. Like we said, being as independent as you can be, so that way you don't run into so many issues at the last second.
It's true. So on that note, it is about time for our Q&A. And so my apologies that we had to ask you guys to mute. It was just for the sake of not having feedback while we were presenting. But if you have any questions for us and would like to ask on this public forum, go ahead and unmute. However, if you would like to send us emails, or have Ann send us emails with your personal questions, if you're not comfortable asking them on a public forum, go ahead and just, either option is okay with us. We're open to answering questions on here or via email if it's something that you don't want on a public forum.
Just a sec, let me go and see if I can unmute everyone as well.
Okay, so I do have one question.
Sure.
Go for it.
Okay, so what was probably the hardest thing you encountered going into college?
For me, I would say just the sheer amount of, and this is why we encourage the independence as well, is just how much you have to take care of yourself. Like I said before, it's nice when your parents are there to help you, but you're the one going to college, not them. So it was, especially because I was a first gen college graduate, is because there was so much that no one really knew how to navigate, that I had to find everything out the hard way. So that was probably the hardest part. But like I said, after I got my bearings, for the most part, it was smooth sailing henceforth.
I would say the hardest thing for me, not in general, but like to get used to, because I when I went off to college, I lived in an apartment, and just like meal planning and doing grocery orders, and because I did grocery delivery simply because the location of my apartment, it would be me taking groceries, things like cases of water bottles or drinks, things like that, that would require both hands or multiple trips. It would have been, in my opinion, a little cumbersome. I used Yellow Cab back then, because Uber and Lyft didn't come around until I was halfway through college, which really saved my life. But just getting used to budgeting and planning for meals and things like that. But again, I live by myself. But budgeting is something that you're going to have to get used to, and you're going to have to think of something more than just the present, like, oh, I really want to do this, or, oh, I have money in my bank account, so I can do this. Like, really understanding finance and having a rainy day fund, even if it's just 20 to 50 bucks, just in case you need to take an Uber to and from a doctor's appointment. And so it was just, I knew how to do independent living. Just getting used to it was a little nerve-wracking.
There's another one that I just thought of as well, and it is the culture of a university classroom setting is much more different from a high school classroom setting.
Oh, yeah.
In high school, and of course all the ones prior, middle and elementary, the classroom experience is much more personal. But when you enter to university, you will find that it's more professional and to an extent somewhat more distant. So you will not have teachers going to you say, hey, you're behind on this assignment. You're not doing so well. You need to come in for tutorials and whatnot. In university and college, you are entirely responsible for yourself, and the teachers will treat you as such. So this goes back to our whole being proactive with anything that you need to take care of. You are responsible for yourself. So that one was I say it took a little getting used to. It was actually a smooth transition, but it's definitely something you notice whenever you go into the classroom setting. This is a silly one, but it's one that I think a lot of people can personally relate with. In high school and elementary school, middle school, you always had assigned seating and whatnot. But then when you go to university, you tend to go to that one same spot just for the sake of comfort. I always went to the front middle because that's just where that's just the easiest place for me to see the board. And of course, I told the professors as well, that was part of my accommodation. I need to have at least that one spot safe for me. So if someone took that seat, while I had not arrived yet, the professor was courteous enough to preemptively tell the person that one is, that's an accommodated seat, and to arrange for the student to move elsewhere.
Yeah, and also, guys, there are some professors who do, some of them take attendance for participation grade. Some don't take attendance, and don't be like, oh, awesome, I can just show up whenever I want. That's part of your accountability, is showing up for class and taking notes on the material and really owning it. And also, checking your grades, making sure you're doing okay. If you're not doing okay, meeting with the professor, like Cesar said. And also, what I like to tell my students is learning how to set your own deadlines and creating, say, a reading schedule. It sounds silly, but one of the first things I would always do the first week of any semester is I would make a reading schedule by copying and pasting which chapters or which pages of what books I needed to have read by which days. So I was setting my own deadlines so that if something happened, okay, I had a day or two of extra room. So if an assignment is due 1 week, make a deadline for yourself the week ahead of time so you can take it to the tutorial center for someone to go over. You can take it to your professor. So really, self-accountability is one thing that you'll see a lot of students their first semester have a hard time with, because it's like going from having not so much freedom in the classroom and having someone who's really, looking out for you to, oh, here's this professor, they don't really take attendance. If I'm failing, they're not going to tell me about it. Oh gosh, I'm failing, what do I do? I'm behind on this and that, how do I catch up? You really have to take accountability from day one. And that is true. Even so much, it sounds silly, but even so much as like, you don't have to ask to go outside of the classroom to pick up a phone call or use the restroom or go get a drink of water. That part to a lot of freshmen is like, what? I don't have to ask to leave this classroom? No, you get up and do what you need to do. That's not to say, walk out to take a phone call from your friend, but you know what I mean? It's a very different, and it takes getting used to.
Right. Any other questions?
That was a very long explanation to one question.
But it was a good question too.
Yes, it was a great question. I liked it. Thank you.
Just so that everyone knows, if your microphones are unable to be unmuted, there is a chat function as well, and I am looking at that. So if you have any questions and you cannot audibly tell us, you feel free to type it into the chat, and I can read it out to everyone, and we can respond.
I have complications to fill out my FAFSA.
Okay.
They asked me for the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know what to do. And
Uh, Sorry,
is
go
it
ahead.
possible that I have to go to one way to, and what documents do I need?
So whenever you fill out the FAFSA, they will typically, especially whenever you have after you filed it, you'll have a W-2, and not just a W-2. You'll have all sorts of labeled documents that come with tax returns. If you do not have those readily available, or your parents do not have those readily available, you can go to the IRS as well, and they can mail you a copy of those documents.
Yeah. There's also a thing on the FAFSA website where your parent can log in. You can enter your parent's name, date of birth, and social security number, and it can pull up their tax information. Because yes, if you're between the ages of 18 and 22, whether your parents claim you on their taxes or not, they go off of your parents' information. And so, yeah, like Cesar said, you can order, your parents can, or guardian can order tax information from the IRS, like transcripts or W-2s. However, you can also click link to the IRS from the FAFSA. But if your parent or guardian has not filled out their taxes at all, unfortunately, that means you will not be able to complete your FAFSA, and that's something that has very much so frustrated me as an education services admin, because it puts a roadblock there for you when it's not your fault whether or not your parents filled out their taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
Mm, I want to take the TIS, the test for TAC.
TSI.
Oh,
Yes.
TSI. I don't think I know that test.
That's the one that where they see where you are at your reading and math level. If you go to the disability services office and get your accommodations, what you will need for that is your certificate of blindness from TWC. That is also serves as your tuition waiver, which you present at the business office in person, would be my recommendation for both. They can give you testing accommodations at the disability office. And so one of those testing accommodations is that test. So for example, I had to take that, even though I had my SAT scores and what have you sent to my university, everybody had to take that test to see, did you need to be in developmental math? Did you need to be in, your regular math for your major? And I got that test in Braille. Simply, most tests I would do with JAWS, but I really needed the math test in Braille. So yes, you can get accommodations for that, but you will need to see disability services first to get your letter of accommodations.
Allie, do you happen to know how they're handling all of that with the closures?
I am not sure. I would assume that they can be the disability office can be contacted via email, because like a lot of us, they're working remotely because the universities have closed. And so if you go to your given college or university's website and you click on, it'll say like ability services or disability services, there is always an email. I would recommend sending an email versus a phone number, because somebody may or may not be at their desk. And so go ahead and send an email with any inquiries about that.
Something just came up to my mind. You've heard Ali and I refer to it by different names: accessibility services, disability services, accommodation services. Not every university is going to call it the same thing, but almost every university will have some sort of department that covers accommodations and that assists anyone who requires such accommodations. So don't just go looking for those words. Really dig through the website and see what they have available to them. Or worst comes to worst, you can actually call the main line and ask them, hey, this is what the kind of thing I need. Who do I need to contact for, Braille documents or for taking me around these places. And they will usually point you to the right place.
Yes. And if you're local, you can reach out to me via email at aparrish@tylerlighthouse.org. And I can give you contact information for local colleges and universities, because those are people that I've been in contact with before.
Okay, any other questions? It doesn't look like we have any other questions.
Okay, well, again, if you have any questions that you think of after this session, go ahead and send them to Ann or myself. Cesar, what can you read to them your business email?
Yes, you can send me questions at hlopez@horizonind.com. That's at HLOPEZ at HORIZ as in Zulu, ONIND.com.
Yes, and so feel free to email us any kind of questions that you may have, and really anything goes. We will keep everything confidential, of course, but just let us know if you have any questions or thoughts or things you'd like to discuss. Anything like that, we are open to. But it looks like that is all the questions we have for now on this session. So we'll go ahead and conclude. And thank you for joining us.
Allie,
Yes.
I just thought of something, Cesar. With my two seniors, they're both thinking about going to TJC, and they're interested in scholarship opportunities. Can y'all explain the scholarship program, or
The Lighthouse?
can apply?
That's Allie.
Can you go ahead and send me an email and from your email, and I can send you all of the information?
Yes, ma'am. I sure can.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.